of Alabama, Crimson Tide Sports. Martin Houston, who hosts the Blitz mornings beginning at 6 a.m. 1992 national champion that you hear every single morning. Second leading rusher, a fullback in 1992. Second leading rusher in 1992. Derrick Mason, a big-time wide receiver of the National Football League, played under Nick Saban at Michigan State, does with our friend Marquise Munson. Now, I just want to tell you right here on the record, okay? You guys didn't even get anything in trade for Marquise Munson. Like this player to be named later, because Marquise Munson is now at 102.5. Derrick Mason is working with Marquise up in Nashville. We didn't even get a sweet tea. We didn't get a pizza. We didn't get a steak. We got nothing.
Hey, man, you got to talk to the GM. The deal, that wasn't a good deal.
Not at all.
Y'all got to work out a better deal.
Not at all.
No, but listen, we're happy for Marquise, man. He worked with Martin and I for about 3.5 years. He started as an intern with me, worked for a year as an intern, and busted his butt. Huge work ethic. So he's going to do awesome things for you guys, man. Very creative, and Martin and I had a chance to work with him for a number of years, and he'll do awesome for you. So we're happy for him. We're just aggravated.
Yeah, he's enjoying it. He's doing the midday show now,
right?
And there might be a possibility, things get changed around a little bit, but he's enjoying it. The guys over at the midday, Darren and Donick, they love him. So he's still grinding. He's still putting in the work.
But now do us a favor, okay? Make sure he's properly fed. like we don't want him to go up there and lose weight, because when we got him, he might have been $150.
Oh wow!
And so we put Martin and I. Okay, we're in charge of the food in Tuscaloosa. I mean, as you can tell, okay, we're like, we know the rib place. I mean, we know. Listen, if you come to Tuscaloosa, like,
y'all got me. Y'all show me everything.
You'll be taken care of.
We're not going to let you starve, okay? We're going to take care of you. We know the best food places, so we put a few pounds on Marquise. So we send him to you at, probably $165, $170.
He's probably still there, but you got to understand, y'all got him when he first came out of college.
Right. Let's start with Jerry Jeudy for a couple of minutes. What do you see in this young man, wide receiver at the University of Alabama?
He's picked up right where, Amari Cooper, and he knows how to get open. He knows how to work the zones. He knows how to defeat double coverage. But then he knows how to also help other guys get open. And he can only get better. He's been there going on 3 years now. I wouldn't be surprised if he won the Biletnikoff Award again.
Wow.
I think he will, unless something happens, God forbid, he, miss a few games here or there. I don't see any other wide receiver that is in the country that's better than him at this point.
Derrick, you made this statement. You said knows how to get open, and a lot of guys know how to do that. Knows how to run routes. A lot of guys know how to do that. But you said know how to get other guys open. That's next level wide receiver. What do you mean by that?
Well, what I mean is looking at the defenses, knowing what you're supposed to do, knowing that, hey, sometimes you are going to be the decoy, and you run your route as if you're the primary guy. A lot of guys, when they figure out, okay, I'm the decoy, then they run half speed. And the minute you come off the line of scrimmage, I, as a defensive back, I know if you're the primary receiver or not. Because typically, if you're the primary receiver, you're coming off the ball blasting. If you're not, then you're kind of lagging a little bit and not really paying attention. This guy comes off the ball 100 miles per hour. So each and every time you think he's the guy that's getting the ball. But, a few times out of there is either Ruggs or the other guy that is getting the ball. But what he's doing is opening everything else up for everyone else.
All right. So it's kind of funny that you guys are talking about this, because Tua, in one of the rooms upstairs, he called it a brotherhood route. Now, you might be familiar with that terminology, but he called it brotherhood route. He said that's how you create teammates when you're given 100%. It's kind of funny that you guys are bringing this up, of the chemistry of the wide receiver room. He called it a brotherhood route. He said you know that you're not getting the football, but you're still going to run just as hard as you're the guy that's getting the football.
Yeah, because you don't want the other guys to look at you. I mean, everyone knows you're the primary guy, but you don't want the other guys in the room looking at you thinking, oh, it's all about you. That when you're not getting the ball, then you are not paying attention to what's going on, and you really don't care about anything else unless you're getting the ball. But it seems like Judy is the type of guy that if he's not getting the ball, then he wants someone else to get the ball, because the more plays they make around him, the better he becomes, because now you can't double team him. Even though he's the number one guy, if Ruggs and all these other guys are catching 4 or 5 passes a game, Ruggs was right behind him, I think, with 11 touchdowns last year. You can't, even though I am the number one guy, you can't double team me. You just can't, because then these other guys are going to beat you. And with Tua at quarterback, we had Jerry Jeudy on. He loves the ability of Tua to extend plays. Him getting outside the pocket. Coach Saban talked about it a little bit, being, smart with the football, not taking risks. But when he gets outside the pocket, he's able to extend passes. He's able to extend plays. And then guys like Judy and Ruggs and the other guys, if they're not open initially, then they got a couple of more seconds to get open. And you don't want to give a bunch of receivers with that type of talent that much time to get open.
Derrick, when you look at, you're talking about extending plays, a lot of times people think that that's just chaos. But as a receiver, are you guys coached to where to go so that everybody doesn't end up in the same spot? How does a scrambling quarterback and wide receivers develop that chemistry? Because it's 53-plus yards across the field and 100, and when he starts moving, but it's the guys who know how to extend the plays, like a Tua, like, Peyton Manning, those types of guys, Tom Brady, it's always like the receivers kind of readjust their routes, but they all know where they're supposed to go.
Yeah, there are rules to, we call them scramble rules, that receivers, quarterbacks understand, tight ends understand. Basically, whichever side the quarterback scrambles to, if I'm lined up to the right, I got a deep pattern, quarterback scrambles to the right, what I do is take one step up and come back to the football. If there's a guy that's going short, what he does is take a step toward the quarterback and go deep. And then you got the guy from the backside just trying to get in the eyesight of the quarterback. So now you just don't have this cluster. Everyone understands, if you're the deep guy, come back. If you're the short guy, go. If you're across the field, just get in my line of sight. I will find you. So with that happening, you just don't have a bunch of guys in one space don't know where to go. And the good teams, the great teams, the really good quarterbacks, the good receivers, the cores, they understand that. That's why you see when guys like Tua, when they get a rush and the play breaks down, they still manage to find someone open. It's not by happenstance that this guy sits wide open. It's because they work on this every day, and we call it a scramble rule.
All right, going to a wide receiver perspective, when you look at Tua Tagovailoa throwing the football, where would you like to see him take that next step as a quarterback from a wide receiver standpoint?
With him, and I said this last year, because right now it's the two best quarterbacks in college football is Tua and Trevor Lawrence. I thought at one point okay, it's Tua all the way, but then the more and more I saw Trevor play, I'm like, this kid's legitimately good. I mean, he's better than Tua to me. What I saw with Tua was, and I don't know if it's his fault or not, but he has so many athletes that sometimes he just anticipates and throws the ball and expects them to be there. Sometimes he trusts them so much that he's just going to release the ball. That happened the first play of the national championship game. He just released it, not knowing that Clemson was in cover 2 and not waiting for the wide receiver to cross the face. He just threw it, anticipating that the wide receiver would, or trusting that he would. Things like that, you really got to pay attention to the defense. You really got to see the defense. You really might just have to take 1 second before you throw the football. I think once he does that, and again, I mean, is it a bad problem? Probably not. But if you're saying, well, what can he get better at? I think because his athletes are so good, and 9 times out of 10, he has the best athletes on the field, so he's just chucking the ball and they're going to get it. But then there's that one time or twice a year, you're going to play that team, whether it's Georgia or Clemson, their athletes are just as good as yours. Yeah. So you have to really pay attention to what's going on the field.
Derrick, I got a question, kind of take you back a few years. You were with Coach Saban at Michigan State, and I say you guys kind of helped cut the teeth of the coach that we get the great benefit of today. He had a process, but he was working that out with you. What have you seen as the biggest change in the way Nick Saban coached Michigan State and the way he coaches today?
Other than him getting older, I don't know if there's from a philosophy standpoint. He still wants things. He's still meticulous. He still wants everything to be perfect. He still has a process that he goes by, and he wants to make sure everyone, coaches, players, everyone that's inside that building understand what this process is. And this is the way we're going to win if everybody's on board. That's still the same about him. I think the thing that has changed with Nick is he's found a way to adapt. Again, we had him on earlier, and he said if you can't adapt in this business, you're going to get left behind. And Coach Saban, and there have been some other coaches that have been able to adapt, whether it's Dabo or Urban when he was coaching, D'Antonio at Michigan State. If you're not able to adapt in this day and age, then you're going to get left behind. Nick Saban, it seems like each and every year has reinvented himself. He's able to adapt, especially to the way these young men need to be coached nowadays. You can't coach them the way he coached me or,
Yes.
or your coach coached you.
That's
He
right.
can't just yell and scream and just browbeat you up and down. Can't do that anymore.
Right.
You have to you got to massage it a little bit. You're still going to get your point across, but you can't come at them the same way you did 20 years ago, and he understands that.
All right, final question for Derrick Mason. Derrick, I want to ask you just a couple of minutes here. We love to embrace history of Alabama football, and I want to take you to somebody that we have a lot of respect for, really one of the greatest players to ever play in Tuscaloosa, redefine the position, and that's Ozzie Newsome. You had a relationship with him. I'm just curious, can you help us connect from that side of things? Because we love to hear history about our former players and what they're able to do, and Ozzie Newsome obviously was a big part of what you were able to do there in Baltimore.
Ozzie was one of the reasons why I chose to go to Baltimore.
Really?
Baltimore.
Okay.
Yeah, I watched Ozzie play when I was younger, when he played for the Browns. But just seeing him getting an opportunity to finally get there in Baltimore, and just seeing and knowing the team that he put together. This is a team that beat us in 2000 when we were the best team in the NFL. They beat us in 2000, and they went on to win the Super Bowl that year. But the collection of players he was able to draft and put together, he put together and drafted a championship team. But when I got there, this is a guy that never stops. I mean, he works tirelessly. He's out there on the field every day. I mean, there's not a day that Ozzie wasn't on the field. Watching practice, making sure everything was okay. In the mornings, he would get on the treadmill, do his little routine he had before practice start, and then he would be out there watching practice with the guys. And he was a guy that you can always talk to. It didn't matter what was going on. I mean, you could just walk up to Ozzie and have a conversation, whether it was about the game plan, whether it was about you being unhappy, whether it was about, your family, whatever the case may be. Ozzie his door was always open, and honestly, that's the way it was. He was a guy that understood players because he was a player himself at one point, but he understood the business side as well. Even when, right after the lockout, and we redid the whole collective bargaining agreement, and a lot of veteran guys had to be cut. I remember I was at home in Nashville. And Ozzie called me and said, hey, can you come to Baltimore? We need to talk. He could have easily did whatever he wanted to over the telephone. Hey, Derrick, because of whatever, the money you're making, salary cap, we got to release you. He could have did that. And, I'd have been like, okay, I get it. But he said, no, I want you to come here and we can sit down and talk. And he and I sat down and talked for about 30, 40 minutes. And he explained to me what was going on. And that I appreciated because he didn't have to do it that way. So I will always, Ozzie will always be one of my favorite guys. I got a chance to talk with them during the season because they came to Nashville to play. And now he's retired from being a GM. DeCosta has taken over, but he's still doing some things with the team, advisement-wise. I don't think he will ever go anywhere. They will always, Bashotti loves him. He will always be a part of that team, and Ozzie will always be one of my favorite guys because, he was a guy. He was an honest guy. He didn't try to, he didn't try to sugarcoat anything. He told you how it was, and you just respect a guy like that.
Well, and Ozzie and Nick Saban have a lot of ties. I mean,
Yeah.
something tells me, I mean, obviously he probably called Nick Saban and said, hey, tell me about Derrick Mason, because that's what he does now. I mean, Nick Saban takes all these phone calls from these. He's got like 63 players from Alabama in the NFL. Now,
Exactly.
some of those guys will be cut when you get to, through the preseason games. But, I mean, a lot of that happens now is, they're looking for evaluations. And, Nick Saban talks to a lot of these NFL GMs. So that NFL connection that Saban and Ozzie Newsome have. And Ozzie was responsible for teaching Nick Saban the Alabama traditions. A lot of people may or may not know that. But
Wow.
so they had that relationship from Cleveland when they coached. And so Ozzie was responsible for kind of teaching Nick Saban the basic Crimson Tide customs. I mean, what's Roll Tide and, what's Yay Alabama and the little things. Ozzie Newsome was so close to him that he taught him the Alabama traditions, the little things that a head coach needs to know.
If you're going to be a head coach at Alabama, you have to learn the traditions. And we were talking, and we said, listen, I would have loved to experience the success that he's having now at Michigan State. But obviously that was he was young in his career, and he was trying to redo that whole program. And D'Antonio, who was on that staff with him, has taken that program and has really succeeded there. But I would have loved to, just been a part of that whole thing with Saban.
Did you play with Muhsin Muhammad?
Yeah, I played with Muhsin. I played with him for 2 years.
All right, so Saban tells all of us the story of Muhsin Muhammad, and I don't know the disciplinary story, but he uses him as an example. He said everybody wanted him to kick him off the team.
Yeah.
He said, man, so Martin and I, we've covered Alabama football for a long time. We didn't understand Coach Saban, but he would use Muhsin Muhammad's story to explain, I'm not going to kick my kids out to the streets. You guys don't understand this. And he said everybody criticized him in Michigan State for not kicking Muhsin Muhammad off the team. He said, but I believed in him. And so he tells the success story of now he's a CEO of a Fortune 500 company. His kids go to Ivy League schools. He said, I look back, and what if I kicked him off the team? What if I would have thrown him to the streets? He said,
that's Nick. That's Nick. Nick is one of those coaches, and there are not many like him. He doesn't listen to what everybody else has to say. He's not going to let the pressure of social media get to him. He's not going to let the pressure of the fans get to him. He's going to look at a situation, and he's going to assess it from there. If you tell Nick what happened, he can better help you. But if you lie to him, he can't. And in Muhsin Muhammad's situation, he knew the situation. He understood it, and he gave him another chance. And look at what happened. You just sometimes, a 17, 18-year-old kid do things sometimes that, hey, listen, give him another chance. Whatever punishment he has to endure, let him endure it. But we're going to give him another chance because we're just not going to throw he or she out of the university because they made a mistake. Now, if they make it again, then okay, you got to go. But if it's a one-time thing, then I'm going to let you prove to us that it was a one-time thing. And Muhsin did. He proved to them that it was a one-time thing. And, I mean, I played with him for 2 years, and I got a chance to play against him when he was in Chicago and Carolina. And he had an excellent NFL career.
Yeah, and I tell people all the time, I believe Nick Saban's secret to recruiting is he didn't have any natural kids. He adopted. So he knows how to put fatherly love on someone that's not his blood.
Exactly.
And I tell people, I believe as a parent, as a person who's been recruited, and as a parent of an athlete, I believe that comes through when he's in the living room. And then all the parents who have had kids get in trouble under Nick Saban have seen it bear out. What father goes, well, my son messed up, so I'm kicking him out of the house. And fans and media and stuff, we want to see that kid get punished or whatever. We think because we think they're adults because we cheer for them on Saturdays that makes them adults. And Nick Saban knows that is a, as you said, 17, 18, 19, 20-year-old kid becoming a young man. And I believe that part of him allows him to be that fatherly figure. And that's why people try to figure out, why is he such a great recruiter? I said, I believe he truly comes across as, if you send your son to school, to play for me, he's going to have a father advocate until he leaves.
Absolutely, and I think a lot of that comes from his dad because he tells the
Sure.
story about his dad picking up all the kids
Yes.
that want that wanted to play on that football team, and he would pick them up every morning and drive them to school or to practice and back home because he wanted those young men to succeed. And what Coach Saban is doing at that university and that program, I mean, there's not a coach better. At least I haven't seen one.
Yeah.
And that's why he's going to continue to have success because of the way he treats people.
I said he's a pee-wee coach on steroids, and you. I mean, I have said that on my show.
Oh, wow.
So many times. I'm like, but think about because the reason Martin Houston plays football today is there's a guy named Billy Wayne Kaiser, who when my dad worked, my parents were divorced, my stepdad worked during the day, my mom was not able to get us to practice, he would come get us. He made sure we got to practice and got out. So I fell in love with football. But had he not been willing to act in that fatherly role, I wouldn't be here. So I've said that Nick Saban is a pee-wee coach on steroids. And that's the best way to describe him.
Derrick, thank you so much. And I know
no
we borrowed you for a couple of extra minutes. I
Oh,
appreciate
no, I
your.
don't mind, not one bit.
Well,
I
we
don't mind.
love because we don't understand the start of the Saban process, and you can help us connect
Yes.
with that era. And like I said, we have all these stories that we hear, but we're not able to sometimes to connect the dots, and you've helped us do that. Derrick, as always, thank you again for your time.
Thanks for having me, fellas. I appreciate it.